What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully everyone is doing great and enjoying life out there. I'm battling a little head cold right now, so you got to bear with me. I don't know who gets just my sinuses. My head feels like it's just congested, but we got a podcast, so we just keep on swinging our pick, and that's the game plan today. We had John Schneider was on we recorded last week, but we released it a couple days ago, so you can go check that out. He was awesome, gave us a bunch of time. General manager of the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champion. Today, I didn't want to. A lot of people talking about Shedeur Sanders and getting pulled over doing a hundo, so I give my thoughts on that. The Roger Goodell's future successor looks like just took a job, and the Lakers sold for $10 billion. And I've seen a lot of different thoughts and takes. It's obviously one of the biggest brands, and when you factor in markets and you factor in fan bases and just overall businesses when it comes to pro sports, but I've just seen a lot of different thoughts and takes, and obviously how it relates to the NFL and the valuations. I don't think it's just that complicated, so we'll dive into that as well. It's Fugazi Friday. I watched something on Netflix this week that just made me shake my head. I don't really relate to adrenaline junkies, so we'll dive into that. And yeah, but before we dive into football, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, in the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime, best in the business. You want to go to an event? I was actually with someone the other day that said his wife wanted to go see the Backstreet Boys at the Sphere, and they're going this summer. I'm like, I didn't even know the Backstreet Boys, the Sphere, but hell, I mean, that'd probably be a decent time. They got some bangers. So if you want to go to any event, if you want football games this fall, obviously comedy shows, concerts all summer long, baseball. I mean, there's nothing better. Summer day, go to a baseball game, especially a Major League Baseball game, get some sun, have a hot dog, have a couple of brewskis, and just kind of enjoy yourself, get a little tan. So if you want to do that, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I did want to start with Shedeur Sanders. Now, before we dive into the ticket incident, overall, I don't think it's going to work. Not because I liked him as a player. I thought he was like a top 50 pick in most drafts. But I will bet against people going to the Browns. Not because I don't think their coach is not good. I think Stefanski is good. I think their GM is clearly a dynamic, smart guy. But their owner's nuts. And he's proven it. And it's not like he's cheap. He spent more cash over the last, 4 or 5 years than any team in the NFL. It's not like he lacks money. I think he's one of the richer guys in the league. But he's proven over and over that he gets in the way of progress. And anytime you're the boss, whether it's you're the dad in a home, whether you're the boss of a mom and pop shop, whether you're someone like Jimmy Haslam and you own an NFL team, you can do whatever you want. And at any moment when the GM and the coach go, we just drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, he goes, I want you to draft him in the 5th round. So it's a bizarre place. It really is. So I don't think it's going to work because most things don't work in Cleveland when Jimmy Haslam has been in control. But when it comes to the situation of getting pulled over doing 100 miles an hour, I saw Cowherd go on like, I'm out, right? Judgment's a huge thing when it comes to quarterbacks. Cowherd, I'm going to see him next week, that his big deal was always the backward hat thing. And, a lot of younger people always laughed at that. I was in Tahoe a month ago, and I was playing golf with this guy who owns a construction company, really high level, impressive, successful guy. And when I told him that, I work with Colin and do the volume and everything, the first thing that came up was the backwards hat thing and how he loved that take. And this was a guy probably 55 plus. And that's something that resonates with older people. Well, doing 100 miles an hour when I was a kid, and I was born in 84. So I got my license late 90s, maybe 2000 or 99. If I would have got pulled over doing 100 miles an hour, my dad would have beat the shit out of me. That was the day and age when, you could lay hands to children. I don't think that's quite allowed anymore. But I grew up on cars, like most people my age and definitely older, that when you hit about 80 miles an hour, the entire car rattled. Unless you had like a Corvette or a Ferrari or something, if you're driving a Ford Bronco, a Suburban, a van, you get to 80, you felt it. So when you told someone when I was a kid you were doing 100 miles an hour, that would have been like telling someone you knew someone with $1 million cash. It was like, damn, that's incredibly fast. And I told the story when I went to Reno and I rented that Tesla and I drove the thing around. And I've been telling everyone since, I can't get over how fast the fucking car is. That if I owned that car and I had a 16-year-old, there is no chance I would let him drive that car. He would kill himself. Because I know at 16, when I drove a Ford Explorer, that I would say once you went above 70, the whole thing shook, rattled, and rolled. And you're like, is this thing going to blow up when I'm in the middle of the freeway? And I think most people listening to this, if you're of a certain age, you couldn't dream of going 100 miles an hour in 90% of the cars. Now, basically any new car, I'm not even talking Teslas, I'm talking Ford trucks. My mom has like an SUV Lexus that's probably 4 or 5 years old. I drove that thing to Tahoe a couple years ago. And I remember going 90 miles an hour thinking, God, this is really smooth. You don't even realize how fast you are going. And that number resonates with older people. When 100 miles an hour. Now, speed isn't relative, right? 100 miles an hour in 2025 is the same speed as it was in 1940. The difference is the ability to get to those speeds in all these new cars. Like, I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Now, if you want to be critical, I'd be a hypocrite. Like, young people go out, stay up late at night. Fun shit happens then. I mean, I would be a raging hypocrite if I why aren't you in bed at 12:30 at night? Like, at 22, 23, 24 years old, I was up a lot of the time too. And I didn't have a lot of money. If you gave me a lot of money and a lot of free time, I didn't have a job, nothing to do for the summer, I would be out rocking and rolling too. But I think people being critical of the speed, it's easy to be because that number still resonates with a certain demo. I just think anyone with a newer car can relate. Like, it's pretty easy to hit that speed now and not realize it. How often when you get a new car or if you drive a new car because you're renting that car and you're with your wife, you're with your friend, they go, man, you need to slow down. And you look, you're like, I didn't even realize I was going that fast. So I think a lot of people are going to have takes like, this is crazy, this is a reflection. I think a lot of people in souped up cars, and listen, there is a line. Henry Ruggs just gave a speech at some prison thing that he killed someone doing 150 miles an hour. And I'm pro, people having their ability to do what they want. Buy a car. I'm as pro-gun as any young person in media, I'll promise you that. But there are certain things that you should be trained for. I'm a big believer in that. And there are certain cars that, I'm sorry, a 25-year-old, a 60-year-old, I don't give a shit how old you are. You should have to take some training to get behind the wheel of that bad boy. Has too much power. If you're not Dale Earnhardt Jr., if you're not Lewis Hamilton, you shouldn't be able to drive this thing. But he's driving a supercharged Ram truck. A lot of people have those trucks. They haul ass. And a lot of cars now haul ass. And getting to 100 miles an hour is pretty easy to do. So when I see him say, I didn't even realize I was going that fast, I actually think it's pretty believable. I do that shit all the time. Now, do I think this is a reflection of a decision maker? I don't. Do I think he's going to be a good quarterback for the Browns? I don't, because most people are not. It took Joe Flacco having a little short run. They ran Baker Mayfield out of town. Now he's a top 10 quarterback after they drafted him number 1 overall. So I would just bet against the Browns situation. But I think everyone overblowing 100 miles an hour, that was way crazier when I was young. I don't think 100 miles an hour, given these cars that are on the road right now, I think you, especially younger people, be surprised how often people go way faster than they even realize they're going. The NBA Finals are here, and this is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. And the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make it a finals to remember. One team will be crowned the champ, and the other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Obviously, everyone's picking the Thunder. Not going to lie, don't hate dabbling a little on the Pacers. 5-1 to win the series. It's the NBA Finals. They just destroy the 1 seed, the Cavs, work the Knicks. I think people are sleeping on the Pacers a little bit. I get the Thunder are good, but I think people are underrating the Pacers. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Who you got carrying their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40, or 50. I would expect, obviously, Shea, but definitely Halliburton to have some big games. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets and finish the season as a winner. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet $5, win $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. There was a moment that happened this week with the PGA Tour that I think has big implications to the NFL. I'd never heard of this guy. Now, I'm not super locked into who Roger Goodell's team is, right? Like, you could ask me who are the coordinators for basically every team in the league. I couldn't get all the special teams coaches, but I get the OCs and DCs, probably of 90% of the league. And hell, I could give a lot of like position coaches. When it came to like, who are Roger Goodell's top 3 henchmen? I have no clue. Well, it turns out Brian Rolapp was a very, very important guy for Roger Goodell in the NFL. And he was just hired to be the CEO of the PGA Tour. And before it was called the commissioner, but for tax purposes, they had to change because of this live thing and a lot of different variables that I don't even understand. I honestly don't even care. But he's officially been named the CEO. And when you go to Brian Rolapp's LinkedIn page, do you know what you see? You see a very, very ambitious person. And do you know what ambitious people do? They try to climb that ladder. And when they feel stuck on that ladder, they will do anything in their power to get to that next rung. And Roger Goodell's 66 years old. And it came out, I think, over the course of the tush-push owners meetings that, like, some people internally are like, Raj, we need you to kind of have an answer to when you're going to retire. And kind of the pushback was like, I don't plan on going anywhere. Don't totally blame him. He's making $65 million a year. He probably has a position that, I don't know, it's definitely like a top 10 CEO, commissioner, whatever, that role, someone that doesn't actually own the thing in American business. I mean, the guy's a member at Augusta National. I mean, it's kind of a big deal with his position. And I wonder if you're Brian Rolapp and you want that job. And for the last, I think, decade plus, he has been in charge of the media/business rights. And he was a key guy in negotiating the last television deal that obviously has given historic returns. And he would have been the guy to negotiate this next television deal. And who knows? Maybe he's back in the mix in 2029 when it's time to negotiate that deal. Because Brian Rolapp knows this. If you want to get a girl to like you, bring another girl around. She'll show more interest, I promise. If you want to raise, have another company offer you a job. And you'll find out how much the company you work with likes you, and if they do, how much they're willing to pay for your services. So Brian Rolapp, by all accounts, and I've listened to some golf podcasts on this, a lot of people in the golf world, in that kind of the main crew of the Tiger Woods and the Jay Monahans, and I don't even count him, but Arthur Blank and some of these other venture capitalists, they didn't even know if he was going to accept their job. So this was like a long full court press to try to land this individual to run the business operations for golf. And if he proves, because listen, I've been lucky enough to know a lot of these coaches and guys that are coordinators and then become head coaches. And the one thing they'll say is like, I want to run my own operation. I want to show everyone that I can do it. It's why position coaches take coordinator jobs. Like, wait, you just left being the running back coach or wide receiver coach for Andy Reid to take the coordinator job for the worst team in the NFL? It's like, yeah, I want to be a coordinator. I want to show that I can call plays. And if I do a good job, I will become a head coach. And every single time, for the most part, like Ben Johnson last year when he hung up on the Washington Commanders as they were flying, like that's an outlier situation. Most guys jump at opportunities, and they become a head coach immediately when that opportunity or coordinator presents itself. And it's no different in the corporate world. And so when you see Brian Rolapp take this job, he knows if he can fix golf's problems, not just unify them, but expand their business. And who's he rolling with and rubbing elbows with in that business? A lot of NFL people. Where are probably the majority of NFL owners associated with? They're probably members of country clubs. And some of the country clubs they're members at host these events. So he's going to be around them in a different capacity where he's in charge, where he's no longer walking into the, Four Seasons in whatever city at some meetings behind Roger Goodell. He's now the boss. Tiger Woods stands next to him when they're walking into the meeting. So I see this guy, if it goes well, he's going to be the next commissioner of the NFL because he's not a golf guy. He doesn't even have a registered handicap. He just admitted the other day, I play less than 10 rounds a year. So he's not getting into this because he's some golf junkie. He's getting into this to prove like, I'm ready for the bright lights. And here's the thing with the NFL, because I look, the last couple commissioners, there were basically three over the last 70 years. Pete Rozelle, Paul Tagliabue, and Roger Goodell. Hard to really put anything in context with Rozelle back in the 60s. Completely different world. Radio and newspapers was much bigger than television. But when you go to Tagliabue in the late 80s, he was the lead lawyer for the NFL. And obviously when Roger Goodell was named the commissioner in the mid-2000s, he was one of Tagliabue's underlings. They are not hiring from outside. Like when Starbucks needed a new CEO, they hired Chipotle's. That's not happening in the NFL. Too many bodies are buried everywhere, and there's too much on the line. They're not going outside the family. This kind of like the mob. So Brian Rolapp has been in this world for 20 years. He kind of in a weird way, obviously the PGA Tour is a lot different than football, but a lot of similar people. The owners are involved. They're involved with country clubs and obviously big money people. So he's involved in media rights deals, gets to be the lead dog on those. And I would expect if all goes well, you're looking at the next commissioner of the NFL whenever Roger Goodell decides to hang him up, probably in his early 70s. Can I tell you about my friends at Ridge Wallet? They come in this great, sleek, black carbon fiber design. Even have a money clip on the back. I like this accessory too. I put it on my keychain because two things. One, they look good. And two, I lose this stuff all the time. And with Ridge Wallet, they have the ability to put in an AirTag so you can keep track of your money, your credit cards. And also, if you don't want the look of just the carbon fiber black, you can go with 50 other different color options. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Losing your wallet's the worst. Losing your keychain's the worst. I never misplace anything now. And no matter what you pick, they have free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. So you can feel good about your purchase. And for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code 3andOut at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use the code 3, the number 3, and out, and you're all set. And after you purchase, when they ask who sent you, tell them we did. The Lakers, they sold for $10 billion. They actually didn't because the guy that owns the Dodgers, that is now the majority owner, already owned 28%. So he's not paying $10 billion, but he obviously is paying billions of dollars to own more to become the majority shareholder. And listen, I would say two franchises, you could argue three now with the Dodgers, are truly like the elite NFL franchises. And that would be the Lakers and the Yankees. And I think you could factor in the Dodgers now as well, that they are the equivalent of the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers. Like they're a franchise. I mean, I think Vegas, if Mark Davis decided to sell at this point in time, when you factor in the stadium, when you factor in the area, would go for a lot, despite their lack of success. But my point is, the Lakers are somewhat of an outlier. I mean, look at the Boston Celtics. Historic franchise that went for $6 billion, which, again, shitload of money. But the Lakers are worth, 40% more. And they are. So I think a lot of conversation in pro sports is like, does your owner have enough money? And in baseball, that really matters. I was with a buddy yesterday playing golf on Wednesday who scouts in Major League Baseball. And it's safe to say that the team he works for doesn't spend as much as some of the big dogs. And it can be frustrating, and there are limitations at times, even though his team has had success at different points in time. But he's not competing with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets, right? And they're at a huge disadvantage. Where in football, the Bengals, if they chose to, they can give Burrow, they can give Jamar Chase, they can give T. Higgins, and if they want, they give Trey Hendrickson $100 million. They have the money. They're just choosing not to, and we can argue till we're blue in the face whether that's correct or wrong or whatever. But it's not from the lack of cash. Like the Oakland A's or the Tampa Bay Rays legitimately don't have the money to pay Shohei Ohtani. Like they do not. They do not generate that type of revenue. They don't have that type of cash reserves. They do not have the capability to pay. Where in basketball, the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Phoenix Suns or you name any team can max out a guy for $250 million. Every single team. So this notion that the Lakers have been some big disadvantage because the Buss family was much more mom and pop. They just happened to have this glamorous asset. Well, there's some truth to that. I mean, they lowballed Tyronn Lue once upon a time. It hasn't stopped them. They pay as I think there's like 3 or 4 more teams over the last 10 years that have paid more in luxury tax. Like they have the money. I heard Brian Windhorst say that someone leaked the league's financials to him. I kind of vaguely remember this, but he remembers looking and seeing that the Lakers in a week made more than the Grizzlies did in a year on their television deal. So obviously they get revenue platforms. But I think sometimes we overcomplicate sports because all I hear is like, look at what the money has done to the Dodgers. Well, yeah, they hired Andrew Friedman, who's widely considered one of the great baseball executives we've ever seen. Like, how did the Cubs and the Red Sox resurrect their franchises? They hired Theo Epstein. I've seen it with the A's. They had a guy named Billy Beane. Hell, look at the Lakers. When did they become dominant in the early 80s? When they hired a guy named Pat Riley, and his general manager was named Jerry West. And then when they got Kobe and Shaq, what did they do? They hired Phil Jackson. Management has always mattered. Now, if you want to argue that management, in any of these sports, especially football and basketball, there is no salary cap, so that's when you can separate yourself, 100%. So I agree with that. But you are not winning in sports, whether your owner is flush with cash or whether he's not, if you do not have the right people running your teams. Jeffrey Lurie is really, really rich right now in Philadelphia. The Eagles have made a lot of money over the course of the internet era, but especially the last 15 years. Why do you think they've been to 3 Super Bowls since 2017? Why do you think they've won 2 of them? They have an elite general manager. Many would consider one of the best GMs in the league. Look at the Seattle Seahawks. They just had on John Schneider. Their owner, who passed away now and his daughters run it, Paul Allen, was as rich as any. He was like Steve Ballmer of the NFL, flush with cash. For a long time, when he owned the team, they weren't that good. Well, when did they turn around the franchise? When, I don't know, they hired Pete Carroll and John Schneider. I've seen it forever with the Raiders. They could never get it right. And their owner always lacked the funds because, a lot like the Buss family, they didn't have anything else. All they have is the team. And while the team does generate them money, they are not flush with cash like they would be with Stan Kroenke or, the Glazer family. Like they just don't have the same amount of disposable cash to throw around. There are different levels to this. But the Raiders have struggled not because Mark Davis has lacked cash, because they've hired poorly. I mean, they hired – the reason that John Spytek and Pete Carroll are there is because Tom Brady and the crew of big money people came in, and Mark Davis allows them to have a huge influence. And before, like, Antonio Pierce was their head coach last year. Of course they sucked. So I think sometimes we factor in money, and obviously it matters. And having great infrastructure and the best training tables and the best, jets when you're flying around, I understand that. But the Oklahoma City Thunder are good because their general manager is elite. So if you want to dominate, and the Lakers wanted to dominate, and obviously the Buss family was over their head because once Dr. Buss died, their kids just aren't that good at their job. right? Even if their heart's in the right place, even if they love the Lakers, they just don't really know what they're doing. Because knowing what you're doing, I mean, we just talked about Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam has unlimited money. And it's like he can't figure it out. David Tepper, same thing. Guy's fucking stock trading genius. And his team has sucked constantly since he got the job. Why? He can't figure out how to hire the right people. And when you do figure out how to hire the right people, usually your franchise doesn't mean you're going to dominate, doesn't mean you're going to become a rocket ship, but you're going to be way better than you were. And that's how you win in sports. And that's how you up the value of a franchise. Because most franchises aren't the Lakers, whether they're winning or they're losing. Now we can get into a whole different conspiracy theory on over the last 6 months. Lucas traded in the middle of the night. Dallas gets their back scratched and gets the number 1 pick. And then sale happens when no one saw coming. So who knows? But I think sometimes we talk so much money. Let's be real. Hire the right GM and coach, and you'll win. Did you know your credit card points and miles lose value while they collect dust? Imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. Introducing the Gemini credit card. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight into your account. Plus, sign up now for $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, visit Gemini.com/card now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank. In order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025, and spend $3,000 in your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risk. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Other than that, I do want to get out of here on this Fugazi Friday about, I can't really relate to adrenaline junkies. I don't get, I've never have like felt like I want to jump out of a plane and go skydiving. Never felt like I want to get into a cage and swim with great white sharks. There are just certain things that I just kind of stay away from. But I get it. Some people get their kind of rocks off doing stuff like that, even helicopter skiing and just doing crazy stuff. Well, I was watching this documentary on Netflix called The Titanic, and it's about that submarine that essentially exploded a couple years ago, trying to look at the Titanic. Remember, they couldn't find him forever. I get individuals who are a little crazy, like the guy that ran this project. His name was like Stockton Rush. And this guy was actually in it for the wrong reasons. He was in it for a selfish ego reasons. Like he wanted to be known as like a legendary human. Like he wanted to be known as like an Elon, a Bezos, like a guy that everyone had to respect and know and build like this billion-dollar business. He actually didn't really just do it for the pure nature of going really deep underneath the sea in a submarine that clearly should never have been that deep because it was destined to fail if you check out the documentary. But what I do not get is why these super rich people want to go on these excursions. Like, my generation missed space. It is hard for me to relate to the guy, even if everyone sells me that it's going to be really safe. Bezos, Elon, whoever, get in that spaceship and go up to space. Like, I don't even need to think about it. It's an immediate no. No interest. The Titanic thing of these rich billionaire guys, that a couple of them that got in there, and obviously they all died. I don't get the need to do this stuff. I mean, especially with technology, like, can't you just YouTube it? So I just watching this thing, and listen, I've always really respected. I love to swim in pools. Really respect the ocean. You know, having gone to a school where a lot of surfers, because we are basically at Cal Poly, it was basically half Northern California, half Southern California. And one thing that binds that Southern California kind of guy is, especially if you're from, Newport down to San Diego, it's like a love of surfing. They like being in the water. And I just like, and when you surf, especially up at Cal Poly North, like toward the Bay Area, like that's one of the great concentrations of great white sharks. And they are legitimately out there. And it's like they don't even care. It's like, yeah, if we see one, we see one. I can't even, like, my heart would be pounding. Obviously, surfing is just challenging to begin with. I was like, well, why do you? I feel no need to go out there, especially like Northern California. The water's fucking freezing. So it's like water's freezing. These waves are pretty big, and they're just 18-foot great white sharks under me with seals swimming around that are essentially like, they're filet mignon swimming around out here. Count me out. I just don't quite understand these adrenaline junkies that need to do this stuff. I can't even begin to relate. And watching this special, I mean, it was kind of riveting just because of how crazy this guy was. But man, just sad deal. Welcome to Chasing Challenges, brought to you by Microsoft. In the NFL, just like in the business world, overcoming obstacles is key to success. Microsoft empowers business decision makers with AI solutions, simplified cloud and data management, and trustworthy, responsible technology to turn challenges into opportunities. In this segment, we explore some of the biggest challenges being faced in the NFL and how they can be overcome. Whatever challenge you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. This week, we're discussing the challenge faced by all the NFL teams. Mike Vrabel said a couple days ago that he thought the next 5 weeks were the most pivotal and important in an NFL season. He's talking about summer break. We just saw Shedeur get pulled over. Obviously, we have instances over the years of catastrophic situations happening on July 4th. I remember one vividly that involved fireworks. This is a time when this is not college football. In the NFL, not only, college players now have disposable income, but in college, you basically get a week or two away from your program as a college football player. You are constantly with your strength coach, living in that community. In the NFL, hell, half your team barely shows up for the voluntary stuff. And then when you finally break for the summer, you're getting 5 or 6 weeks to do whatever you want, to go wherever you want. And it's one thing, a 34-year-old that's married with 3 kids. But a lot of these younger players, especially these rookies, their friends maybe still be in college, may still have some of their college teammates. They're just in different situations, and decision-making is extremely important. And finding a way to stay communicate with these young players, there's a balance, right? You got to let them be grown up. But this is a time when you really can derail. You really can derail your upcoming season with a bad decision. So obviously, time plus discretionary income can be a dangerous combination for young people, especially famous young people that are public figures. And making the right decision is something that the coaches and these GMs that just drafted these players, this is where you pray your scouting department, the information you had on their character, on their maturity kind of comes to fruition, because it's the first time it's really tested, right? When you draft them, they immediately come for rookie minicamp, and then they're just kind of around until now. And now they're away from you, and this football, you're going to be depending on young players, so not just first round picks. A third rounder could be starting, a sixth rounder could be starting, an undrafted free agent could be starting. So you need them to take care of this time, not just working out and staying in shape, but at night, whatever they're doing for fun, to do it in a responsible manner. And that's this week for Chasing Challenges. Remember, Microsoft's AI solutions empower you to take bold steps and make informed decisions, speaking new ideas to help drive your business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challengers to learn more.